Here are the top stories for today, April 22nd, 2021. The country's vaccine czar says the inoculation drive is making progress. Over 1.6 million vaccines have been administered, and the number is expected to go up with the arrival of more jabs. No compromise for now. President Rodrigo Duterte is not keen yet on easing quarantine rules for arriving OFWs, as the surge of COVID-19 cases in the country still seem far from over. A treat for plantitos and plantitas, the Environment Department is distributing free seedlings in its community pantry in observance of Earth Day. And taking COVID-19 response to the next level, a town in Aklan will soon use a robot to help frontliners in caring for COVID-19 patients. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. We begin with updates on the government's COVID-19 response. The country has administered over 1.6 million COVID-19 vaccines nationwide. In a palace briefing earlier today, Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says close to 1.4 million people have already been vaccinated. These include over 1 million medical frontliners, about 184,000 senior citizens, and almost 211,000 persons with comorbidities who are at the top of the vaccination priority list. Meanwhile, over 214,000 medical frontliners have received their second dose. The figures were based on data from the Health Department as of April 21. Citing data from Bloomberg, Galvez says the Philippines ranks 4th in terms of the number of vaccines administered in the ASEAN region. Galvez is hopeful that the vaccination drive will get a boost with the arrival of more jabs in the coming months.
Nakikita natin pagkawas na nabakunahan natin majority ng mga affected na tinatawag nating highly urbanized cities like Metro Manila. Pagka nakuha natin yan, nakikita natin na siguro by October or November, nakikita natin yung epekto niya talaga na talagang bababa talaga yung kaso niya. Pero sa ngayon, ang ginagawa po natin, ginagamit pa rin natin talaga yung minimum health standard at saka yung tinatawag natin na talagang implementation ng tinatawag natin yung quarantine natin, controls.
President Rodrigo Duterte is closely monitoring the developments concerning the controversial drug Ivermectin. This after he ordered the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to hold clinical trials for the use of the anti-parasitic drug to treat COVID-19 patients. The Department of Science and Technology and the Department of Health earlier said there is no need for local trials since over 40 global studies on the drug are being conducted. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the president wanted to find out if there is enough evidence to back the use of ivermectin to treat COVID-19. He also assured that the Philippine National Police would crack down on individuals engaged in the distribution of fake, unregistered, or unlicensed ivermectin drugs in the market. Currently, 2 hospitals have been given a go signal to use ivermectin on COVID-19 patients amid pressure from some doctors and private groups advocating its use. Ivermectin products were used for certain animal species to treat internal and external parasites, as well as prevention of heartworm disease in the country. Meanwhile, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelo said it is best to wait for the results of the clinical trials before taking the anti-parasitic drug. Citing FDA Director General Eric Domingo, Panelo said high doses of ivermectin could cause brain damage or even death.
Kung ano na lang ang sabihin ng FDA, pakinggan na muna natin. Sila naman ang mga nakakaalam. Sila yung mga may karanasan, merong expertise na tinatawag. So they're the ones studying. So let them be. Yaman na sila, pantayin na lang natin kung ano. Meanwhile, you take ivermectin at your own risk.
The Philippines is not yet left behind in the vaccination rollout program in comparison to its neighboring countries, despite the very limited supply of COVID-19 vaccine shots. Benj Bondok will tell us the intensified efforts of the government in ensuring that all Filipinos will get the shots immediately.
The government targets to administer 120,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines per day in the National Capital Region Plus area, as the country expects a steady supply of about 10 to 15 million vaccine doses per month in the third and fourth quarters of this year. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said mega vaccination sites will be put up in malls, different arenas, and gymnasiums. The government also ramps up the support of its human resource for healthcare facilities by building more intensive care unit rooms, providing additional hospital beds for severe and moderate COVID-19 cases, and constructing more temporary treatment and monitoring facilities. Galvez said the government has so far activated 3,263 vaccination sites across 17 regions nationwide since the inoculation started, and almost all of the country's available doses of vaccines have been distributed to all vaccination centers as of April 20. Meanwhile, getting inoculated will soon be faster and more convenient with the help of the Vaccine Information Management System, or VIMS. The Department of Information and Communications Technology said the system will centralize important data from citizens and health facilities of local government units and will also track the supply and distribution of vaccines nationwide. In its pilot rollout in San Juan City, DICT Undersecretary Emmanuel Caintic said the local government was able to shorten the vaccination process to around 10 minutes. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
Over 75% of target beneficiaries in Quezon City and Manila City received their financial aid from the government after 14 days. In Quezon City, 605,614 families, or 76.79% of their target beneficiaries, received their cash assistance of 4,000 pesos for a family of 4 or more, or 1,000 for each member of a family of 3 or less. The QC government has also assigned a grievance committee in each of their distribution centers. Beneficiaries can register on-site to the Q Citizen ID. Meanwhile, about 286,147 families, or 75% of the total beneficiaries in Manila, have received their cash aid from the government. The Manila Department of Social Welfare has been distributing the financial aid for the past 2 weeks. The list of the financial aid beneficiaries are posted on the Manila Public Information Office Facebook page, as well as on Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso's FB page. 11 nurses from Eastern Visayas are deployed to the National Capital Region to help in the rising number of COVID-19 patients. They are the second batch of nurses assigned in Manila. Of the 11 nurses, 6 are from Biliran Province, 3 from Leyte, and 1 each from Southern Leyte and Eastern Samar. The Office of Civil Defense provided 110 complete sets of personal protective equipment, or PPEs, while the Department of Tourism distributed travel kits. These nurses are assigned at the Philippine Heart Center until June 21. On April 7, the DOH Regional Office sent the first team composed of 50 nurses and a doctor. They are assigned at the Lung Center of the Philippines for a minimum of 2 weeks and a maximum of 2 months. The Filipinos' bayanihan spirit has been proven to be viral through the setting up of community pantries across the nation. However, aside from giving out food and other essential items, some groups are using it to advance a different agenda. In this report by PTV4, anti-government leaflets are also being distributed to beneficiaries in a community pantry in Quezon City. These leaflets urge the people to join protest on Labor Day and call for the resignation of President Rodrigo Duterte on the grounds of lack of mass testing and the inability to provide a 10,000 peso aid for the needy. This act is not sitting well with the government's anti-insurgency body. In a statement, National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy says this is exactly the scheme of the communist movement, which is to throw shades at the government in the guise of organizing charitable acts. Vada also called on the CPP, NPA, NDF to stop deceiving the people through these acts with the propaganda aimed at criticizing the government. The Philippine National Police has earlier denied red tagging or profiling community pantry organizers. Still to come, eased quarantine rules for OFWs, not so fast and not for now as far as President Duterte is concerned. And no magic pill yet against COVID-19. The Health Department says all available medicines for the disease are still investigational products. Back after a quick break, this is the PNA Newsroom.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
President Rodrigo Duterte expressed apprehension over the proposed relaxation of quarantine protocols for returning OFWs. This after Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello proposed to skip the quarantine protocols if they already tested negative for COVID-19. President Duterte said he understands Bello's misgivings because the government's funds for OFWs are already depleting. The Overseas Workers Welfare Administration earlier sought an additional 9.8 billion pesos for the quarantine accommodations of returning OFWs. OWA Administrator Hans Leo Kakdak said 6,500 overseas Filipino workers who returned home are still staying in around 125 hotels to complete their quarantine.
Kung iparating yung kalagayan ng ating mga OFW, talagang hirap na hirap sila, Mr. President. They are crying.
Maliit na yung pera, he's raising the alarm actually. He's raising the alarm of the possibility of having no more funds to take care of this kind of situation that we are in now. Not ready for a compromise. About lalo na ngayon.
As the government suspends the entry of foreigners until the end of the month, all Filipino dual citizens can still go home provided they present the necessary documents. The Department of Foreign Affairs said Filipino dual citizens will be allowed to enter the country by presenting their valid Philippine passport, identification certificate, or a certificate of reacquisition retention of Philippine citizenship. The document should be presented upon departure. The Department of Health says all available medicines for treating COVID-19 symptoms are under study as there is no proven cure yet for the disease. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said the available medicines now for treating COVID-19 are all investigational. This means medicines that would be recommended for patients with mild to moderate symptoms will depend on the doctor. Meantime, while no food or drink is prohibited, those infected with COVID-19 are encouraged to eat fruits, vegetables, and other healthy foods. They are also advised to drink enough water because they are at risk of dehydration, especially when they have fever. As for the home care of COVID-19 patients, Vergeres said it must at least be connected with telemedicine consultation providers to ensure the public is guided properly. The Philippines has secured over 6 million doses of various COVID-19 vaccines that were donated by the private sector. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion said that about 6.5 million COVID-19 shots have been procured under the private sector initiative, a Dose of Hope program, where 1,004 companies have participated. Concepcion noted that the private sector's strong partnership with the government in the pandemic response has been crucial. However, he asked that the Department of Health and National Immunization Technical Advisory Group should provide the private sector the flexibility it needs in its vaccination rollout. He said their workers belong to different priority groups under the A4 list. These include commuter transport, wet and dry market vendors, frontline workers in groceries, supermarkets, delivery services, and workers in manufacturing for food, beverage, medical, and pharmaceutical products. The Ilocos Norte Tourism Office urges more tourists to visit the province as it extends its online travel fair until May 19. This and other news in today's Provincial Roundup from Lade Cabagani.
The month-long online travel sale in Ilocos Norte, famed for its crystal-clear beaches, heritage sites, and gastronomic treats, is extended until May 19. The Ilocos Norte Tourism Office is enticing more tourists of all ages to visit the province with eased travel protocols as it offers more travel deals, discounts, and promos. Interested tourists can book with discounted rates from participating hotels and tour operators through www.ilocosnorte.ph. In Davao del Sur, potato farmers have improved the quality of their products and doubled the harvest by adopting appropriate farming technologies. The farmers from the Kapang Alegre Potato Small Farmers Association in Bansalan Town learned new farming techniques from the Department of Agriculture in Region 11. The group said that from 4,000 kilos, their members increased their yield to 8,000 kilograms per cropping. GAPSFA is a beneficiary of the Sustainable Potato Program of DA11 and Universal Rubina Corporation, the country's leading potato chip manufacturer. Meanwhile, police officers are keeping the Bayanihan spirit alive in Negros Occidental by putting up pantries outside their headquarters across the province. As several police stations started to open their own pantries earlier this week, the Negros Occidental Police Provincial Office announced that all other stations will follow suit under the initiative called Barangayanihan. Police Provincial Director Colonel Rome Pagles said the COVID-19 reminds people of compassion and love towards one neighbors by sharing what they can give. He invited Negrenses in need of basic goods to visit the pantries and also asked those who have something to share to take part in the initiative. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Cabagani.
In our business news, the Department of Energy has vowed to take the necessary steps to protect oil and gas resources in the Philippines' exclusive economic zone should any foreign state engage in petroleum exploration activities without permission. Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi supported President Rodrigo Duterte's statement in his talk to the people on Monday, where he asserted the country's exclusive licensing authority over petroleum and other resources in the West Philippine Sea. But Cusi also said the DOE shall defer to the sole prerogative of the President regarding any security option. He said they will conform to any decision of the Department of Foreign Affairs regarding the ongoing informal negotiations on oil and gas cooperation with China. The Philippines and China signed a memorandum of understanding in 2019 to move forward talks in possible areas of cooperation in the West Philippine Sea. Up next, Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga postpones his visit to the Philippines. We tell you why later. And plantitos and plantitas rejoice. You might want to check out this unique community pantry set up by the DENR. Details ahead. Stay with the PNA Newsroom.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. In celebration of Earth Day, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, opened on Thursday its version of the popular Community Pantry. Just as the community pantries in various areas give away food and other items, the agency's Community Pantry gives seedlings of fruit-bearing trees and vegetables for those in need. The Community Pantry is located at the DENR NCR Technical Services Office in Diliman, Quezon City. Private individuals and groups who share a passion for urban greening also donated plants in support of the project. The Community Pantry aims to help address the issue of food security in Metro Manila and the promotion of resiliency amidst the pandemic and changing climate. This will also help plantitos and plantitas cope with the stress caused by the pandemic through urban gardening and planting. The Philippines understands the decision of Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga to postpone his plan to visit the country. Reports showed that Suga postponed his visit to the Philippines and India set on the end of April to focus on handling a recent surge in COVID-19 cases in his country. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the Office of the President understands Suga's decision since beating COVID-19 is a priority shared by other countries. The palace earlier said the Duterte administration looked forward to working with Suga to further boost bilateral cooperation between the two countries. In December 2020, Duterte and Suga reaffirmed their shared commitment to strengthen the Philippines-Japan relation in a 25-minute telephone conversation. In sports, the Philippine National Volleyball Federation is setting up a tryout bubble in Subic in preparation for the Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam. The PNBF has extended an invite to 60 men and 60 women for the national seniors team's tryout, even as they also called up some youngsters for the juniors beach volleyball teams. The tryout for the indoor volleyball teams will happen from April 28 to 29 at the Subic Bay Gymnasium with coaches Oji Mamon and Dante Alinsunurin supervising the tryouts. Meanwhile, the beach volleyball tryout is set on April 30 at the Subic Bay with Paul Doloiras and Rovil Verayo overseeing it. Among the notable names invited to the tryout are Cici Rodina and Bernadette Pons, who scored a bronze medal in the 2019 SEA Games. Frontliners in Kalibo, Aklan are going high-tech as soon as a robot joins their ranks in caring for COVID-19 patients. The batch 1968 alumni of the Kalibo Pilot Elementary School turned over to the local government a remote-controlled robot called Logistics Indoor Service Assistant, or LISA. The remote-controlled robot, which was designed in the United States, helps in disinfection. It also delivers medicines and other supplies to a patient, minimizing exposure of frontliners to the disease. Basil Tabernilla, Executive Assistant 2 to Kalibo Mayor Emerson Lachica, said the officers and members of Batch 1968 worked together to request LISA from University of Santo Tomas and the Department of Science and Technology. The LISA robot will be deployed to local COVID centers around Kalibo. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. The country's vaccine czar says the inoculation drive is making progress. Over 1.6 million vaccines have been administered, and the number is expected to go up with the arrival of more jabs. No compromise for now. President Rodrigo Duterte is not keen yet on easing quarantine rules for arriving OFWs, as the surge of COVID-19 cases in the country still seem far from over. A treat for plantitos and plantitas, the Environment Department is distributing free seedlings in its community pantry in observance of Earth Day. And taking COVID-19 response to the next level, a town in Aklan will soon use a robot to help frontliners in caring for COVID-19 patients. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.